Hendrick Motorsports just made it official. Alex Bowman is out. Not for one race, not for two, but for at least 3 more Cup Series events. And when you run the math on where the 48 sits in the standings right now, the word trouble doesn't even begin to cover it. This isn't a minor bump in the road for one of NASCAR's most storied organizations. This is a season-threatening situation unfolding in real time. And the ripple effects don't stop with Bowman. Every driver under the Hendrick Motorsports roof is now feeling the pressure in ways that will define their 2026 championship runs. Here's what's happening, why it matters more than the headlines suggest, and what it means for the most powerful team in the sport. Alex Bowman is 32 years old, drives the 48 Alley Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports, and has been one of the steadiest, if occasionally overlooked, drivers in the Cup Series garage for the better part of a decade. One win in 2024 at Chicago proved he still belongs in conversations about contenders. He's signed through 2026. The seat is stable. The sponsorship with Alley Financial runs through 2028. On paper, coming into this season, Bowman looked like a driver ready to build on momentum and make a real run at the playoffs. Then came COTA. On March 1st, during the NASCAR Cup Series race at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, Bowman climbed out of his car on lap 71. Not because of a crash. Not because of a mechanical failure, because something was wrong with him physically. Specifically, the kind of wrong that doesn't show up on a scanner or a pit stop strategy sheet. Bowman was experiencing vertigo symptoms that made it impossible to continue safely. Myatt Snyder, the Fox pit spotter and part-time racer who happened to be on site, climbed in and finished the race. That moment at COTA was the beginning of a spiral that is still unfolding right now. For Phoenix, Anthony Alfredo stepped into the 48. Then, for Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Hendrick turned to Justin Allgaier, the 39-year-old veteran who runs full-time in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series for JR Motorsports. Allgaier started 22nd at Las Vegas and finished 25th. Not a disaster, but not points either. And now, as of March 17th, Hendrick Motorsports has officially confirmed that Bowman will miss at least 3 more Cup races. Darlington on March 22nd, Martinsville on March 29th, and Bristol on April 12th. Allgaier is confirmed behind the wheel for all 3. Jeff Andrews, Hendrick Motorsports president and general manager, put it plainly in the team's official statement. Alex continues to experience symptoms, so we are following the guidance of the medical team and giving him the time he needs to recover. We see how hard he's working to get back behind the wheel, and we're looking forward to his return when he's medically cleared. Everyone at Hendrick Motorsports is 100% behind Alex. That's a strong, unified public message. But that's only half the story. To understand why this is so serious, and why the entire Hendrick Motorsports operation is watching this situation with real anxiety, you have to understand where Bowman currently stands in the points, and what this organization's championship math looks like as a whole. Bowman is sitting 36th in the Cup Series standings with 23 points. 23 points. That is the worst mark among any driver in a chartered car. The playoff cutline, the 16th position that would put a driver in position to chase a title, is currently occupied by Shane Van Gisbergen with 117 points. That means Bowman is already 94 points behind just to reach that bubble spot. And the season is not even 2 months old. But here's where it gets worse. NASCAR analyst and journalist Bob Pockrass has described Bowman's chase eligibility as nearly impossible. That's not hyperbole. That's math. With 3 more races being missed and Allgaier behind the wheel, the 48 will continue to accumulate minimal points. Every race that goes by without Bowman in the car is a race where the gap to the cut line grows. The projected deficit after Darlington, Martinsville, and Bristol combined is expected to push Bowman to at least 150 points behind the cut line, maybe more. Now, NASCAR does have a medical waiver system. It exists precisely for situations like this, where a driver misses races due to a legitimate medical condition rather than a performance slump or a penalty. Bowman almost certainly qualifies, and the expectation in the industry is that NASCAR will grant it. But here's what that waiver actually does and doesn't do. It protects his eligibility to enter the playoffs. It does not hand him a playoff spot. He would still need to be among the highest points earners once the regular season ends to secure his position. And right now, with a debut that has already gone sideways and at least 5 total absences between COTA and Bristol, the path back looks steep. And then came the part nobody saw coming. the broader Hendrick picture, because this isn't just about the 48 garage stall. Hendrick Motorsports runs 4 cars. Bowman's 48, William Byron in the 24, Kyle Larson in the 5, and Chase Elliott in the 9. On paper, those are 4 of the most talented drivers in the sport operating under one of the most resourced teams in NASCAR history. But when one of those 4 cars goes dark week after week, the organizational pressure shifts. Think about how Hendrick Motorsports operates at the championship level. Their 4-car operation is built on shared resources, shared data, shared setups, and the kind of inter-team communication that gives each driver an edge on any given weekend. When the 48 program is running at full capacity with Bowman behind the wheel and accumulating race data across every track type, that information flows back into the organization. It informs how the 24, the 5, and the 9 set up their cars. It creates another data point, another baseline for the engineers to work from. Right now, that data loop is broken. Allgaier is a fantastic substitute. We'll get to what he brings to the table in a moment. But he is not a full-season Hendrick Cup driver embedded in their championship culture. The feedback he generates is valuable, but it is not the same as having Bowman locked into the groove of a season-long campaign alongside Byron, Larson, and Elliott. And here's what amplifies the pressure even further. Byron, Larson, and Elliott are all in the middle of their own championship fights. Every race matters to them. Darlington, Martinsville, and Bristol are not throwaway weekends. They are short tracks and traditional venues where points are hard-fought, where the championship picture sharpens or blurs in real time. Larson has history at all 3. Elliott owns Bristol like few others in this sport have ever owned a single venue. Byron is quietly building a case as the most consistent Hendrick driver of this generation. None of them can afford a stumble. None of them can afford the organizational noise that comes with a major team story unfolding alongside their own playoff push. Now let's talk about Justin Allgaier, because dismissing him as just a seat filler would be a significant mistake. Allgaier is 39 years old, runs full-time for JR Motorsports in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, and has deep experience in equipment that traces its lineage directly back to Hendrick. He's been here before. In 2020, he filled in for Jimmy Johnson after Johnson tested positive for COVID-19. In 2024, he covered for Kyle Larson when Larson chased the Indianapolis 500 and Coca-Cola 600 double. He knows the culture, he knows the engineers, and critically, he knows the upcoming tracks. His O'Reilly Auto Parts Series record at these 3 venues is genuinely remarkable. 3 wins at Darlington, 1 win at Martinsville, 2 wins at Bristol. Those are not backup driver statistics. Those are tracks where Allgaier has demonstrated that he knows how to go fast and manage race conditions. The question is whether that series-level mastery translates in a cup car where the competition, the tire wear dynamics, and the sheer aggression of the field all intensify dramatically. His Las Vegas result, 25th from a 22nd starting spot, wasn't explosive, but Las Vegas is a high-speed intermediate track, where cup-level experience gaps show up most clearly. Darlington, Martinsville, and Bristol are different animals. They reward feel, patience, and racecraft over pure aerodynamic efficiency. That plays directly to Allgaier's strengths. But the real fallout didn't happen on the track. The conversation inside the garage, inside Hendrick Motorsports, and across the broader NASCAR industry in the days following the March 17th announcement has centered on one question. When does this end? Not just for the 2026 regular season, but for Bowman's career trajectory. This is his 3rd significant absence in 5 years. In 2022, a concussion cost him 5 races. In 2023, a back injury, separate from the concussion, cost him 3 more. Now vertigo is taking at least 5 total races away from him, possibly more. That is, by any objective accounting, a concerning pattern of physical setbacks for a driver in what should be the prime years of his career. Hendrick's statement is unequivocally supportive, and there is no reason to doubt their sincerity. Alley Financial's sponsorship remains fully intact through 2028. Nobody inside the organization is publicly floating alternative plans. But drivers talk, crew chiefs talk, team owners do math. And the math in a sport where playoff eligibility is everything shows a driver who has missed significant portions of 3 of the last 5 seasons. That reality exists, whether anyone inside Hendrick wants to acknowledge it publicly or not. The social media reaction since the announcement has ranged from genuine concern for Bowman's health, which is the appropriate response, to frustrated acknowledgement that his playoff hopes are essentially gone before the calendar even hits April. NASCAR's own veteran beat reporters, including Pockras and Jeff Gluck, have been careful to note that the medical waiver conversation is ongoing, but that the competitive ceiling for Bowman in 2026 has dropped dramatically. And when you look at the standings now, you'll see why this changes everything. Start with the championship picture across the full Hendrick operation. Byron, Larson, and Elliott are all positioned inside or very close to the top 16. But in a sport where every manufactured point matters and where the margin between a playoff driver and a bubble driver can be decided by a single race result, the absence of the 48 as a competitive points scoring unit is a real loss for the organization's collective leverage. Here's a scenario worth considering. Suppose Bowman returns after Bristol, misses the Kansas race on April 19th, which is currently the earliest theoretical return window, and comes back for Talladega or Dover. He's already looking at a deficit that, even with a medical waiver securing his eligibility, makes a run through the playoffs a near miracle. He would essentially need to finish among the very highest points earners in the back half of the regular season to build enough momentum and legitimate credibility for a playoff run. And strong results aren't just happening on schedule. Bowman has 8 career Cup Series victories. He's a proven winner, but going from sitting 36th in points to a playoff-worthy position, while also managing the physical reality of returning from a vertigo condition that has already cost him more race time than any prior injury? That is an enormous ask. The 16-race regular season schedule still has tracks remaining where Bowman has historically shown strength. Road courses. The intermediates where the 48 program tends to shine. If the medical team clears him in time and the car returns to its 2024 form, strong results are possible. But the window is narrowing with every lap Allgaier runs in that seat. For Byron, Larson, and Elliott, the imperative is clear. Do not wait on the Bowman situation. Each of them needs to be building points cushion and chasing stage wins on their own merit, knowing that the 4th Hendrick car is not going to be dragging the team's collective average upward anytime soon. If Larson is going to make his run at the championship that his talent demands, it starts now. If Elliott is going to recapture the momentum that made him a fan favorite and a genuine title contender, it starts now. If Byron is going to prove he's the long-term centerpiece of this organization, it starts now. And that sets up what could be the most important stretch of races in Hendrick Motorsports' 2026 season, starting this coming weekend. Darlington Raceway is next on the schedule. They call it the track too tough to tame, and there is a reason that nickname has survived for decades. Darlington is one of the most demanding tracks on the circuit. Old-school asphalt with asymmetrical turns that punish anyone who gets comfortable. It has chewed up championship hopes before, and it will do so again on March 22nd. Allgaier lines up in the 48 Ally Chevrolet with 3 O'Reilly Auto Parts Series wins at Darlington on his resume and something to prove in Cup. Meanwhile, Larson, Byron, and Elliott will each be chasing wins of their own, and chasing them with the full knowledge that one of their 4-car organizational pillars is operating at reduced capacity. Martinsville comes 1 week later, on March 29th, and then Bristol on April 12th after the Easter off weekend. 3 consecutive tracks that will separate the real contenders from the pretenders before Kansas opens up the possibility of a Bowman return. The earliest Bowman can realistically get back in the car is Kansas on April 19th. That is the target date, according to reporting, but there is no guarantee. Vertigo is not a broken bone. There is no straightforward healing timeline. The medical team clears him when the symptoms are genuinely resolved, not when the calendar says it's been long enough. And if Kansas comes and goes without Bowman, the conversation around his 2026 playoff viability moves from difficult to functionally over. One additional data point to keep an eye on. There are reports that Bowman may look to run the NASCAR O'Reilly Series race at Nashville Superspeedway in late May if he is medically cleared by then. That would represent a lower stakes return to competitive driving, a way to shake the rust off and prove to the medical team and to himself that he can handle sustained racing activity. But Nashville in late May is weeks away, and 3 more weekends of the 48 sitting in the middle of the pack under a substitute driver is weeks of damage to a championship campaign that has already absorbed more than it can mathematically handle. This is where Hendrick Motorsports finds itself in late March of 2026. Not in crisis. This is a world-class organization with the resources, depth, and talent to weather this storm. But in a genuinely difficult position where one of their 4 drivers is fighting a medical battle with no clear end date, their organizational data and competitive depth are temporarily compromised, and 3 of their most important races are arriving with the championship stakes already sky high. Alex Bowman is working. The team says so. The doctors are involved. Everyone at Hendrick Motorsports is behind him. That is real, and it matters. But the sport does not wait. The standings do not pause. And the question hanging over every lap between now and Kansas Speedway is not whether Bowman will eventually come back. It's whether coming back will still mean anything for 2026. Darlington runs this weekend, and the clock is ticking on one of the most significant early season crises in recent Hendrick Motorsports history.